Now here with the latest afternoon headlines, it's the ITV Lunchtime News.
The class of COVID shine as A-levels and BTEC results are finally out.
Oh my God!
After months and months of disruption, it's been a record-breaking year for students who are celebrating a moment of joy amid the chaos of coronavirus.
Students have had to deal with some of the most difficult situations as a result of this global pandemic, but they've really shone.
Also this lunchtime, a lawsuit is filed in New York accusing Prince Andrew of historical sexual abuse. The Dixie Fire continues to consume large swathes of California, the second largest wildfire in its history. Keeping up with the Kennys, Laura and Jason back home after Olympic glory in Tokyo.
Brad and Chris and Steve Redgrave were kind of the people I was watching growing up. So it's really nice to be kind of, compared to them and be on the same page as those guys.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Charlene White.
Good afternoon. They've learnt, studied and revised through a pandemic and lockdowns. And this morning, A-level students in England, Wales and Northern Ireland celebrated the best ever set of exam results. After COVID cancelled exams for a second year in a row, grades awarded at A or higher have risen to an all-time high, with almost half achieving the top grades. But the gap between private and state school pupils has widened significantly. More than 200,000 students have also got their BTEC results. Our political correspondent Carl Dinnan reports.
The envelopes hold nothing less than the direction young lives will take next.
Oh my God!
And after another year of disrupted education, the results were better than ever.
I did 5 qualifications, so I thought I'd flunked 2 of them. So I didn't know if I was going to have the time. I got 2 A stars, 2 A's and a C.
ABC, which is what I wanted.
Once again, A-level grades were allocated by teacher assessment rather than by examination. Once again, overall grades are up.
Absolutely. Students have got better results this year than maybe in previous years, but it has been an exceptional year. They've been dealing with exceptional challenges, and I think it's just rewards for all their hard work, all their commitment.
44.8% of UK A-level entries were awarded an A or A star this year. That's 6.3% higher than last year, which itself was 13% higher than the last set of regular exam results in 2019. Overall results in vocational qualifications like BTECs have remained broadly stable since last year. Exam regulators say better results should not be compared to pre-pandemic grade inflation.
I don't think inflation is a very helpful way of thinking about things. I think what we've got to recognise is that we were asking teachers to make the judgments this year. These judgments are an accurate reflection of what the students have worked at and what they've achieved.
I suppose the people who might be worried are those who are going to sit proper regular exams next year. How are you going to try and protect them?
Well, it's tricky, isn't it? And there's going to have to be a migration back to what one might call the old normal, in terms of once you've got exams, you want to go back to the standards that we had before when exams were being sat.
But Labour say even this year's increase has not been evenly spread, with private school grades increasing more than those in state schools, where pupils are now in greater need of support to get onto courses.
I'm really encouraging state school principals and senior leaders and teachers that if they know there is a kid in their care, a student that they've been looking out for, and their talents aren't being recognised, pick up the phone, go to bat for them, because those young people need it and they deserve it.
Universities are already preparing to take more students this year, with more than ever qualifying for their first choice courses.
No! I got in.
And the Education Secretary says he wants to see all universities now return to face-to-face learning. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Westminster.
In Scotland, the pass rate for National 5s and Highers has fallen slightly on last year, but is still well above the results before the pandemic back in 2019. As in the rest of the UK, teachers decided students' grades. Pupils were told at the end of term, but the results have only just been made public. The Scottish Education Secretary said students had achieved a strong set of results under extraordinary circumstances. OK, let's talk to some guests now. We've got Mariam Capri, who got her results today, head teacher Tash Hurtado and education expert Laura McInerney. Now, Mariam, I'm going to start with you because we've got a lot to get through, but you're the special person today. You got your results today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really happy. I'm really proud to be able to represent students in Bradford, and I'm really proud of all the hard work and to see the culmination of 2 years of resilience and effort. So, yeah, I'm feeling really happy.
Now, what was it like for you studying through a pandemic and lockdown? Were you quite worried about what results would come today?
I think it was quite challenging because it was so unprecedented and it wasn't what we were expecting. But I think with the support that we received from college and everyone's constant hard work, I think we all do deserve the grades which we received today.
Now, because of your grades, you're off to university, aren't you? But it's not going to be straightforward, is it? Because you're going to do a combination of online and in person.
So I'm planning on studying at the University of Leeds, and they've told us that a lot of it is still going to be online, and we're going to have some face-to-face sessions as well.
So are you quite disappointed by that you won't get the full university experience in your first term?
I think so. Obviously, the situation is as such, and it would have been nice to be face-to-face at uni all throughout the whole of the first term. But hopefully it'll be better after the first term and we'll be able to be in full time.
Now, for those of us who haven't got kids off to uni, Mariam, what do you think about the fact that you'll still be paying full fees, despite the fact that I guess you won't be getting the full experience?
I think perhaps the fee should be reduced because obviously we're not going to have access to all of the facilities and the resources as you would have on a normal year. And I think it would only be fair if the fees were reduced because obviously we don't have access to everything.
Yeah, well, I really hope you have a great time while you're there. Do hang on, though, even though I'm going to talk to Tash and Laura now. Tash, you're a head teacher, aren't you? How's it been for your pupils today? Have they been generally happy with their results?
Yes, we had a lovely morning this morning. The students came in, they were excited, nervous, the same as any other year. I think they recognise the challenge of the process this year. They've seen it firsthand for themselves, how difficult it's been for them in going through this period of online learning and teacher-assessed grades. Similarly, they recognise the robustness of the mechanisms that sit behind awarding them those grades, and therefore they were as nervous as ever about what might meet them today when they came to collect their results. But it was a happy occasion. I think the students were delighted with the results that they received, and we have the majority of our students moving on to their choice of university or apprenticeship.
That's brilliant. Now, have you seen today, though, Tash, there's been a lot of talk about the disparity between private schools and state schools, grammar and sixth form colleges. If we look at the results here, we see that 70% of students at private schools got A stars and A's compared to 39% of students at comprehensives. Do you think this whole process has increased the gap rather than made it smaller?
I think the circumstances probably polarised the gap between students who come from the private sector and the state sector. I think young people's experiences through lockdown has been vastly different, linked to their socio-economic situation. Therefore, the capacity for students who are perhaps from more well-off backgrounds to compensate some of the gaps in their learning would be preferable to those from other backgrounds. In terms of what the schools have achieved, I think I'm quite confident that in my profession there would have been a proportionate and an equitable response to the need to award teacher-assessed grades, and that would have been done with integrity across the sector.
Now, Laura, as an education expert, considering the furore last year, do you think the whole thing has been dealt with a lot better this year?
I think from the very beginning, the strategy was to make sure that more young people were getting the grades that their teachers felt were fair for them, and also that they were able to go on to university. And ultimately, we've seen today more young people being able to get their first place choice at university. there's more disadvantaged pupils than ever before going on to university. And although that gap is widening, we still do have to look at the fact that there's more life chances being given to those groups than ever before. And that's a thing to be celebrated.
Now, in terms of the whole process going forward, we've obviously had we've had the teacher assessment this year. Do you think going forward, Laura, we should see a combination of teacher assessment and those sitting down to do exams?
Well, you heard the head of the exams regulator there, Simon Liebers, saying that next year they're going to try and move back to something that looks more normal, but they've already said it's likely to be an adapted exam system. Whether that's something like this year where actually schools were able to say, well, we've only been able to cover certain content, so we'll examine on that, or whether it will be the exams regulator and the exam board saying what content they're going to take in and out. We're still not sure. It's always very late in the day, so we'll find out in the autumn. But it's not going to be exactly the same as usual, just much closer to usual.
So we shall see. Well, Mariam, Tash and Laura, thank you all so much. And congratulations once again, Mariam, and enjoy uni.
Thank you.
OK, there's much more on Results Day on our website. Just search for ITV News. OK, let's move away from exams now. An American woman has filed a lawsuit in New York accusing Prince Andrew of sexual abuse. Virginia Giuffre claims she was sexually abused by the Duke of York when she was 17. He has categorically denied any sexual assault or relationship with her. The legal documents say in this country, no person, whether president or prince, is above the law, and no person, no matter how powerless or vulnerable, can be deprived of the law's protection. 20 years ago, Prince Andrew's wealth, power, position and connections enabled him to abuse a frightened, vulnerable child with no one there to protect her. It is long past the time for him to be held account. Well, Andrea Levin is a royal biographer and joins us now. Andrea, thanks so much for talking to us about this. What was your reaction when you first heard this news?
I thought it was just another step or another hurdle on this very long journey. The accusations have been floating around and come down several times before. But this is something very important because if Virginia, the young lady, hadn't agreed to do the accusation now, by the end of the week, they wouldn't be able to do it at all. So they've obviously talked to lawyers and decided that this is the moment. And I think that Prince Andrew will have to go very much straight to his lawyers, the royal lawyers, and see what he can work out. The interesting thing is that it doesn't matter if he appears or not, I believe. They can come to a conclusion that he is guilty without him, and I think that will then be catastrophic for the royal family as well as him.
And because potentially, with this litigation, lots more details could come to light.
Yes, if they do decide to go ahead and they find him guilty, they can leak or generally just show very specific details of what happened and how they happened, which will be devastating. And also they can start then to have a repayment for the physical and emotional and psychological harm that she has had. And the interesting thing is, who pays this? Is it the royal family? Does it come out of people's taxes? Is it just Prince Andrew who's got to pay? These are very, very difficult situations that I think will affect the royal family very much so. And of course, in November, there is the Maxwell case. And so it's all going to come out then about her getting young girls to actually go and see famous people and rich people. And so it's a very long, prolonged problem. And my heart goes out to the Queen.
Oh, Andrea, thank you so much for talking us through that. And just to confirm, these are allegations against the Duke of York. Right, still to come on the programme, fears California's wildfires could get even worse. And at home with the Kennys, Laura and Jason, on success in Tokyo and what comes next. The inquest into the death of convicted terrorist Suhaib Aman has heard he would have attacked them in a second if they hadn't opened fire when they did. Aman was killed by police after stabbing 2 people in South London last February. Juliet Bremner is at the inquest at the High Court for us. Juliet, what's the latest?
Well, we've been taken through that last journey from the parole hostel down to Streatham High Road in great detail. We've had the journey pieced together from all kinds of footage, including CCTV from buildings and buses, from body-worn cameras that the police had on them, and from mobile footage that the public shot. Originally, when we see 20-year-old Suhaib Aman, he's walking quite calmly. In fact, when he gets to the high road, it seems as if he's not quite sure which direction he should turn. But then, dramatically, it increases because we see him going into a hardware store, grabbing a knife. He emerges outside, he's chased by two undercover officers. We don't see it, but we know that he stabs two of the passers-by who thankfully survive. We then see him outside Boots, where we see him turn round and confront the two officers. He lunges at them with the knife in his right hand. Originally, they're about 8 to 10 feet away, and then within half a second, he's moved to within just 2 or 3 feet. And you see them open fire, and within the next fraction of a second, he collapses to the ground, and we know he dies. One of the lawyers in court said, the officer, if he had hesitated even a second longer, Aman would have been on them, wouldn't they? And the detective who was taking us through the pictures agreed that was the case. We then saw the immediate aftermath and how they tried to clear everyone away because, of course, they thought he was wearing a suicide vest. In fact, it happened to be an improvised one, but at the time they didn't know that.
OK, Juliet, thank you. In California, the second largest fire in the state's history is burning through forests as thousands of firefighters try to protect rural communities. The Dixie Fire has been burning for almost a month, and with high-pressure building bringing hotter, drier weather, there are fears it could get much worse. Sangeeta Lal has the story.
California is heading for the worst fire season in its history. As hundreds of homes are destroyed, the blaze that's been raging for almost a month now shows no signs of stopping. Strong winds and dry forest land have fueled the flames, leaving many evacuated with nothing.
Left behind a lot of stuff. Fires ravaged through everything.
It's pretty emotional just thinking of all your neighbors and your friends, you know, that are frantic trying to move all their animals and everything.
From inside this fire engine, crews try to see how they can control the blaze. It has scorched an area larger than London, and now firefighters are bracing for higher temperatures expected over the next few days.
The dries are getting a lot drier, and the heat and hot weather is a lot hotter than it's ever been. The extreme weather conditions, just likes of which we've never seen in our history.
Crews keep pushing throughout the night. More than 5,000 are tackling the Dixie Fire, which has now spread through 4 counties. Heat waves and historic drought have made wildfires harder to control here, and scientists warn scenes like this will become more frequent and even more destructive in the future. Sangeeta Lal, ITV News.
Actress Christina Applegate has revealed she's been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. The actress, who starred in Friends and Anchorman, revealed her condition on Twitter. Multiple sclerosis is a disease that affects the nervous system and can cause serious disability. Sport now, and Lionel Messi has reached a 2-year deal with Paris Saint-Germain. The Argentinian captain left Barcelona in an emotional farewell because they weren't able to afford a new deal for him. Well, Mark McQuillan is here. Mark, what's the latest?
Well, this is a huge transfer story, Charlene, because Lionel Messi is widely regarded as one of the best players to ever play the game, and he's so synonymous with one particular club, Barcelona. But a short time ago, pictures coming into us of him leaving Barcelona airport, heading for Paris, and one of the Europe's richest clubs in Paris Saint-Germain. But actually, they're not paying a transfer fee for Lionel Messi, but it's anything but a cheap deal for PSG, because Messi will reportedly earn about £25 million a year after tax in wages. So why is he leaving a club that he's been at for 21 years, one he adored in Barcelona? We saw the emotional scenes at his farewell press conference the other day. He wanted to stay, he didn't want this, but it came down to money. Even though Messi offered to take a 50% pay cut, it still wouldn't have been enough to meet the Spanish League's rules on club spending, so he reluctantly went. While Barcelona fans are gutted that he's going, Fans at his new club are delighted to see him. Plenty of fans waiting outside the ground, waiting to greet him. And what a player they are about to get. One who's won 35 trophies, no less, at Barcelona.
Indeed, I bet they're happy. Mark, thank you. Finally, not many toddlers can say their mum or dad has an Olympic gold medal, and none except little Albie Kenny can say their parents have 12 between them. Jason and Laura have returned to him in Cheshire from Tokyo, where they picked up another 4 medals. Amani Ibrahimi reports.
They're being called the golden couple, and it's not hard to see why. They have a staggering total of 12 gold medals between them, and if that wasn't enough, Laura and Jason Kenny are now officially Britain's most successful Olympians ever.
It's good that, it's a bit bizarre. It just sort of happened by accident, really, I suppose. We just kind of concentrated on one race at a time, really, and Chris and Steve Redgrave were kind of the people I was watching growing up. So it's really nice to be kind of, compared to them and be on the same page with those guys. Quite special, really.
But of course, there's no success without hardship, and it certainly wasn't an easy ride for Laura, whose time in Tokyo ended with a crash. She was caught in a pile-up with 9 others in the opening scratch race, putting her behind in the event she's always dominated.
Obviously, I was absolutely gutted because once that crash had happened, there was just no way I was ever going to win. I might have been able to scrape a medal. So yeah, it was a funny one. Like when I went to bed that night, I was sat there and I was a little bit disappointed, even though I'm sat with a gold medal. It was just a funny feeling to end on, I guess.
The married couple arrived back in England yesterday in high spirits, showing off their gold and silver medals. And despite making it look easy, they managed to balance training alongside being parents to their 4-year-old son, Albie.
I mean, I think it was harder than I guess I was anticipating. You see loads of people do it. So when we won the Madison, honestly, it was I just felt completely overwhelmed because, like you say, to know that we've juggled being parents at home and then to go to the Olympics was just, yeah.
With both parents in the Olympics, will we see him get on a bike?
He's not really interested, is he?
No, it's really not.
He can do it.
Well, if he grows up and changes his mind, who knows just how many more medals they'll end up with. Amani Ibrahimi, ITV News.
That's it from us this lunchtime. We're back with the evening news at 6:30. The news where you are follows the national weather. But from everybody here, enjoy your afternoon. Bye-bye.